Paula Reed and Jeremy Saland, a former Manhattan prosecutor. Paula, we just heard that Donald Trump, he wants to testify, but if that happens, it won't happen today. There are no cameras in the courtroom. What's he doing there?
Well, he's trying to amplify this idea that he is a victim of political persecutions, right? That they're only targeting him because they want to interfere with the election. That's why we saw him show up to oral arguments in federal court last week in Washington. And then he showed up to his civil case here in New York. But what's different about today is it's unclear he's going to get a return on his investment of time, because federal court, there are no cameras inside the hallways. There is no camera inside the court itself. There is no role for him today during jury selection or if they get to opening statements. So this is very different than what we saw late last week, where we heard from him 4 times in one day, right? He talked to cameras in the hallway on the way into court. He spoke in court. He spoke on his way out, and then he had a press conference. Today, if he really wants to talk to his supporters or amplify his message, it is most likely that he's going to have to hold a private press event. Because again, federal court, totally different animal.
And we haven't got word yet that he is doing that. We'll have to wait and see. Jeremy, as Kara Scannell and Paula have both reported, Donald Trump's legal team claims that he wants to testify here. The judge would put limitations on that. Explain potentially what he could say.
You know, what he could say is what I would expect him to say. He will take every avenue he can to say what he should not, meaning he'll use it as some sort of stomping ground for a win politically. He will try to say what he should not, again, which is, I don't know this woman, this was a hoax, I didn't sexually assault her, I was not found responsible for raping her. I would expect that, because he's not going to want to speak about his money and what the potential damages could be. Will he try to speak to his state of mind? Will he try to sort of limit his financial exposure? Absolutely. But the script that Donald Trump has to keep and likes to keep is not what the court wants to contain from the 4 corners of the courtroom.
Yeah, I mean, how long of a leash would a federal judge give him on the witness stand?
Far less than Judge Engoron in the Attorney General in New York civil case. There will be little to no leash, and I think that'll be shut down quickly. His counsel's already said and has voiced sort of that ground for appeal, which is, you're already basically limiting my client's ability to defend himself out of the gate if you adhere to what the plaintiff's attorney wants and you adhere to what you've already said to limit him. But, he's going to have to try to keep it to what his state of mind was, which may be reasonable, and what his dollars are, which may be reasonable. But the defamatory issue is over.
Paula, I saw you nodding at the no leash corollary right there.
Yeah, this is a different, not only is this a different environment, this is a very different judge. And I think what we saw in the civil case, the judge there, he kind of entertained the cameras. He allowed the pool spray at the top. He understood access. He would kind of play to the cameras, joke a little. There were questions about whether that was even appropriate. He knew what he was going to get as soon as Trump stood up to address the court. He let him go on for a little while. But federal court is different. I mean, these judges, they don't play. They don't engage in antics. If they lay out rules and you blow past them, they are going to cut you off, potentially even drag you out of court. Now, you could argue that that would feed into the larger narrative. Maybe that's the 3-dimensional chess they're playing here. But again, the big question is why today? There's no role, there's no camera. Will he get a return on his investment more so than going to New Hampshire or going to the border? Unclear. We'll see.
The only prism to look at this through is through the campaign prism, not the legal prism. That's what we're trying to understand. Paula Reed, thank you. Jeremy Saland, thank you as well.